It's okay if you don't have any more questions. Yes?
Why did you choose to have a female protagonist?
Well, this is actually my third book with a female protagonist. And, I just always felt like one of the advantages of fiction is that you can, be anybody almost. And it just seems like, mix it up a little bit.
It's first person.
It's a first person, yeah. Exactly. So I guess that's why,
Did you find it hard to write as a woman?
There's a woman trapped inside of me.
Really?
I'm gonna let her out. No.
There's one. I hear there's one trapped inside of me too.
No, I didn't find it that hard. I mean, it's but I do, most of my books are guys. Some of them are really lecherous.
Right. So do you think you're making up for that?
I'm overcompensating.
I was just curious. The fact that this novel was set outside of the New York City area is something I picked up on right away. And how did that feel? How did you work that into it?
Well, yeah, this is my first non-New York novel. Most of my novels are very New York, and I actually spent 3 months in Tennessee in the early '80s, and so I got some feel of the place. It's a little bit dated, but and I went to Graceland. But you don't want to be pigeonholed in this business, which I feel like I have been. It's kind of a local New York writer, and it's I wanted to take a shot at kind of I wanted to mix it up. So that was kind of the idea.
I was wondering, how do you think that age, getting older, and the experience that comes with it? I'm not calling you old or anything, just 20 years ago, but. I think they affect your characters, the actual process of writing, what comes out. That's one of the big differences between books like Manhattan Loverboy and what I've seen from this new one.
That's true. Well, did you feel that there was a big difference between those? I mean,
it's different issues. I can't really explain, but this kind of branches out more, Tennessee, Elvis Presley, and then this just seems more more realistic. Everything from what I've seen. I was just curious. I've always wanted to ask an author what it's like to.
No, that's a
get older and try to stick with the same kind of style.
It's a good question. I mean, the process of they say finding your voice. I guess that's a cliche in this thing, and it's I always felt like writers who kind of kept writing the same book over and over. What's the point? A little bit, it's a tricky call because you see some writer. I'm sure you all have favorite books, and then the writer will do other books that you can't stand, and you think, where the hell did that wonderful voice go? And the point is that you don't really you don't want to really repeat yourself. On the other hand, there is an inclination to kind of stay in a safe territory or safe space. So I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah, but you brought up an interesting question about you knowing so much more than the first book you wrote. Just the fact of your experience and how does that? You mentioned that. Right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Well, actually, those books took me longer. You really try to find the book. Did you have this process where the ratio of edited work to final work was I wrote much more back then and edited it down and kind of found the novel. And did you find that to be the case?
Well, I only have 2, so.
Well, 2.
And I don't have the benefit of all your wisdom and experience. Being so much younger,
Thanks.
I'm kidding. Okay, that was a joke.
But I did want to follow up. I think one of the things I felt, even though it was a different character in a different town, different story, but there is a voice that I feel like is Arthur for me, And one of the things that I actually wanted to ask also is, whenever I read your books, there's something, and I mean this in the best sense of the word, exhausting. But
you mean burnt out, cynical, exhausting?
No.
Okay.
I just feel I don't know how, do you get exhausted writing these things? Because it's just, there's always this incredible energy in the page. So I mean it in a good way. There's the energy, and that I feel like it's in the same as Manhattan Loverboy, and it just keeps going. And
that's really sweet. I don't know.
Do you get tired writing?
It's exhausting, and I think, and Jennifer could point out that I always feel like the hours I put into these books, if I worked at a Starbucks, I'd be making more money. So But you're right. I think at the end of the day, the only way you can write. I mean, there's something kind of inevitable about it. And, I mean, my influences early on were very different than the writing I do now. I mean, one of my early influences was Faulkner, but I've never been compared to Faulkner, nor do I ever want to be. But I mean, it's like I think that probably is the thing about finding your voice, because there's something inevitable about it. I mean, do you think that to be the case as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying though also about how do you sustain that voice throughout the whole novel,
Thank you.
Yeah, with things that so there is that you have this voice and you've got it for like a couple of pages. How are you going to make this go on for 200, 300 pages?
That's right.
And so the very fact that yours keeps going.
Well, I mean, and there really is a craft to like kind of coming up with plot, and and not having the character just kind of bloviate, which I mean, so that helps.
I mean, for me, technically, I have 4 different. It's all in third person, but they're 4 different people. The pace changes, historical events happen, so it isn't that high octane kind of constancy of one person talking. It's also the nature of a first person voice is a lot different than a third person voice. But I think that's a wonderful compliment.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'll give you
How it came.
Okay.
Anyone else or?
I have a question about originality. As a fine artist, like you sometimes have an idea and find out someone 20 years ago did the same exact thing. Plethora of books. You've written 10 books, Jen, I know you've written 2 books. Every author has their own voice. Are you striving to write something new? Do you ever write something and find that you read the same exact thing? Do you guys have that problem?
I mean, I'm sure that somebody else has written about Elvis impersonation.
Oh, a lot of people.
But
Yeah.
it's the thing about there's language, and it's so vast, and your take on whatever you do, you're going to put your stamp on it. However you sound, however you build a book, however you structure it, however you comment. In fact, we were going to write the exact same scene. In fact, I do this with my students sometimes. Everyone's going to come up with an incredibly different perspective on it. They're going to feel differently about it. They're going to, we see someone like get shot down on the street right now. The paramedics who come versus us who see it versus the lady across the street all have different perspectives. Anyway, long and short of it is, I don't think it can be really the same. And I don't think you ever did something visually that was exactly the same as someone else.
Well, close enough. I mean, it's a concern sometimes. I don't know if you have that concern in the process of writing something. Like, I want to do something new, or I don't want to repeat what other people have done before. Or is that something that's possible?
I mean, I also think what was happening after 9/11 and the way everyone was coming at 9/11 or felt that they needed to weigh in on it was a little bit of that. But again, that has to do with the way history moves or the way that we see events. I don't know if you've had that experience.
Well, no, I mean, I'll tell you, I have a couple friends who are writers who I've seen like really suffer meltdowns because they found the book with their plot or a similar plot that they've been working on for years just came out, and like my response is just you focus on your work, you do the best you can. It really is a very kind of solipsistic. I try not to look at this person's doing. I mean, sometimes sure that happens, but it's like at the end of the day, your work is your work, and it really, the angles are so different, and maybe nothing is original. I mean, all those quotes like Tolstoy saying there are like 10 plots the same, or that the only original plot by Shakespeare was The Tempest, everything else was kind of rehashed and stuff like that. I wouldn't sweat it, man.
I will say it used to. Yeah. Okay. You used to get told when you were writing, and probably when you're making pictures, that there's room for everyone. Just do what you do really well, and there's room for everyone. And you don't get really told that anymore, and I think that's because the publishing industry has changed so much. But you do get told it's okay because you're part of a trend.
Yeah,
that's the way things have changed.
Which sometimes works to your advantage, by the way. If you're actually like the check movement.
I'm kind of being glib, but I think.
No, it's a good point. I mean, because marketability, where they actually can put a handle on you, and you have a big audience that kind of comes around and feeds off your carcass, that's a great thing. But yeah, I don't sweat that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes.